Hey songwriters, welcome back to another edition of At Home Songwriting. Today we're diving into hip hop and rap songwriting with someone that I've known for many years, going back to when I still lived in my home state of South Dakota. So representing the 605, we're gonna say hello to Nightshield. Nightshield, what's happening?
Hey, what's up, man? Thank you for inviting me on today. It's
Yeah.
exciting. I'm not used to Zoom, so
Well, I'll try to make it as painless as possible.
great.
So, for those of you who are not familiar with Night Shield, he is the founder and the leader of Night Shield Entertainment, which is an independent record label based in South Dakota. And Night Shield has been writing songs and producing music and producing artists for, gosh, how many years has it been now? It's going on like 20, maybe?
Yeah, over that, man. We put out our first album as a record label in 2001. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, 21 years like officially putting out product.
Isn't that crazy how fast that went? I remember meeting you, I think, at the Sioux Empire Fair in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, like before you even released anything.
Yeah, it's wild. It's so wild, like how fast time goes, and like the older you get, the faster it goes too. It's ridiculous.
Totally. Well, and we've all been in the time warp of like COVID. Like this
Yeah.
last 2 years is just crazy. So you have released 8 of your own solo albums. You've released 24 albums on the label. That's a lot of activity. And, my channel is all about people doing like songwriting and music at home. That's why it's called At Home Songwriting.
Yeah.
And you've basically been running this label kind of as a business from your home all these years as well. So, how did you get started?
Well, I started. So I went to when I went. I was in high school, and once I got like trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, I decided to go to audio production school, music business school in Seattle for Art Institute of Seattle. So I went there just sort of like, and in high school I did like video production and stuff. So it was like a weird switch for me to be like, I don't want to do what I've been doing. Let's do audio. So I wanted to be like a DJ or something. I used to DJ like school dances and things like that. And it was always fun. So that's sort of like what led me down that path. And while in Seattle, and I, at this point, I had never thought about being an artist. I had never written songs or done anything like that. But for class, we would have to record music. And being from South Dakota, not knowing anybody in Seattle, me and a couple of the other students just got together and just started messing around because we had to record stuff. And that's sort of where it came out of. And then I met like Sinatra and Overflow and like a couple other people that like I had known from class and things like that. And we just started getting together and doing stuff. Um, when I graduated from the Art Institute, I moved back to South Dakota and I tried looking for something for like a job as far as in like music or audio production, like KSFY or like Kelloland or like these TV stations or radio stations. And it
Yeah.
just wasn't working out. And one day I just had like an epiphany. I woke up and I was like, what if I just started a record label? Like, what if I just, how do you do that? Let's just try it out. And so I just did one day. And then I don't know, slowly started putting things together. Our first album was a compilation album. So it was a fairly simple album to put together as far as like, hey, I like that song. Can I use that? Can I put that out on a CD? And this is like before streaming days or whatever. So it was like, it was more of a thing to like have your song on an album where people could hear it. Whereas like, streaming just wasn't a thing. It wasn't so easy
Sure.
to put music out or whatever. Um, and at that time we put out like I recorded like a couple of songs that or verses and stuff for the project and put it on there, but I was terrible at everything back then. So it was just, trial and error, learning how to write music and record and all that stuff. So it was all learning experience.
Well, that's what this channel is really all about. I mean, we all start somewhere and we all start where we don't want, like we start at a lower level than we want to be at, right? So
Yeah.
that's good. I remember those days when it wasn't streaming. It was all about CDs. It was all about like physical product, and like it was just a different time back then. So you said you had to learn about making music and stuff. Did you have influences that really kind of spoke to you from like, I really want to be an artist, or I want to do things like, so and so, or what does that look like for you?
Well, when I first started, like I didn't even know how, as far as like hip hop goes, like I didn't even know how to write bars. I knew nothing about song structure. Like I knew literally nothing. And so like the people that I was like working with were like, no, you got to go here. This is where you come in. And they were like telling me like how, beats and how to write music and stuff like that, which I just had no concept of because it wasn't a thing that I had ever even thought about doing until I was like in the middle of doing it or whatever. So if that makes sense at all or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, so my friends, it was shout out to Joe Garcia and Val Johnson. Like they were the ones that were sort of like, well, we don't want to fail this class. Let's just get together and do this or whatever. And then that's like I said, that's where I met Sinatra. And Sinatra was the one that really like he was like serious about being an artist, and he's the one that really like got me serious about it, rather than just it being like a fun school project. Being serious as far as like let's no, we can let's do this. We can really do something. So
So
um,
obviously you're 8 solo albums in, as you look back at those early projects compared to now, do you see evolution within Night Shield as an artist, or what do you see when you look back at your catalog?
yeah, I mean absolutely. Like the first four four projects, well, three projects from Night Shield Entertainment, the label that I was running at the time, were just compilation albums. They were like, hey, I like this song, I like that song. Let's. So those were fairly easy to put together. The fourth album from the record label was a Sinatra solo album. And then while we are doing this, I was slowly like putting together like a solo album myself. And that was our fifth album. And that came out in 2004. It was called Catastrophic. And so that was like my first project where I wrote all the songs, I did everything. And so when I listen back to that album now, I can 1000% hear like the progress and just even just like song structure and lyrics and just flow. Everything about it is just like, yeah, I could tell I was like just barely starting and trying to figure it out.
Did I produce songs on Catastrophic? You have so many albums, I don't remember the
Uh,
ones that I'm on.
you want to see something funny? Okay, so other day here. So my mom's moving, right? I went back
Yeah.
to her house and I was like helping her clean and stuff. And I found an unopened copy of Catastrophic. Um,
Awesome.
and yeah, we did a couple songs on here. We did Hit Me Back
Yep.
with Christina, and we did Touching Me with Christina. Um, I think that might be
That
it.
might be it on that one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, so I was like, God damn, there's an unopened one. It was probably my mom's personal copy. She's like, I'm not even opening this shit.
Yeah, that's awesome though.
Yeah.
So I'm always impressed with what you've been doing from like a release standpoint. Like you started basically from, like you said, just in school, more of a project. Now like some of the things that you post, that some of the things that you're accomplishing, and like the way that the label, from my perspective, seems like it supports itself, and like you're actually doing an independent label from your house, while it's that's something that a lot of people want to do. And it's like, I guess when you think about that, how does that all come to your mind? Like you should be proud of that, I think.
Yeah, I'm definitely proud of where we've come from. It and it's we've had a lot of help along the ways. Like that there's been a lot of artists. Like I already mentioned Sinatra and Overflow. We've had Young Trev, Maniac, um, Committed, Wellington Down, Danny Boy. There's so many people that just on NSC, and then not to mention like V the Noble One and Trey Lane and people that like I've worked with for, two decades at this point. Um, we've all like helped each other grow and helped each other, just become better artists and people overall. Um, and if without those people, I for sure wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. Mr. D Sane, who's like uh, a producer, and he runs a record label in Seattle, and he's taught me a lot of stuff about just about the game and everything. So I mean, it's a whole, it's a business, it's a whole thing, not just myself. So
Yeah. So obviously, I'm sure you get contacted by new artists, people who are wanting to learn how to write rap or write hip hop. What are some of the things, obviously you've had to learn along the years? What's some of the advice that you give someone who's maybe just starting out?
um, I keep a journal. I mean, when I first started, like I would just write all the time, like in notebooks and things like that, and just whatever came to mind, I would just be writing. And I mean, most of it's just nonsense at that point. Like I didn't know who I was, and I didn't really have anything to say, and I didn't know what I wanted to say. I was like, well, this is what a rapper sounds like. I'm just going to do that or whatever. But I think I found my voice, into, I would say probably even like by my third solo album was when I was really like becoming like comfortable with who like Night Shield was as an artist. Whereas like I'll say my first two albums were sort of just like, well, this is what a rapper does or sounds like or whatever. This is what they rap about, and I was doing that. But yeah, it wasn't until about my third album where I was really like, okay, this is what I'm doing now.
So I know you mentioned when you started, you didn't know things like rhymes or like song structure, like lyric structure. What sort of advice do you give someone about that now, or what is that process like for you?
For me now, I mean, I know what it is now, obviously, but back then, like, I would even just listen to songs, just listen to it and see how they sequenced it, or like where the subtle beat changes are, this is where the bridge is at, or this is where the chorus comes in, and things like that. And it was just, I said, I had never thought about those things before, like as just a casual, like I said, I wanted to be a DJ, and I was just playing like high school dances, playing Boys to Men, and then Salt and Pepper, whatever. So it wasn't anything that I had like really thought about beforehand until I was like actually like doing it. And so, and Sinatra was really instrumental in like showing me things like that, and showing me like how to just structure writing rhymes and things like that. Um, so yeah, it was all that was alien to me in the beginning.
Who are some hip hop artists that you look up to, like from an influence perspective?
Um, Currently, like I'm a big Yellow Wolf fan. Um, Jelly Roll and Mercules, I like their stuff a lot. Um, I would say those are probably my big three. E40, I like a lot. Snoop Dogg, like that'd probably be my top five as far as like current
Well,
artists who I'm like, I really admire what they do. Um,
what did you think of Snoop on the Super Bowl?
I thought it was cool, man. I was like legit like overjoyed that that was a moment. Like, yo, this is how far hip hop's come. Like, I remember when we first started, it was barely on the radio. Like, it was like, and it was bad. Like when we first started doing music, like we couldn't even do shows in town because it was
Yeah.
like it was, so people just had like such a negative attitude towards hip hop where it was constant gun violence, and people were going to break out into riots and fights and everything, and it was just, I was just happy for hip hop as a movement overall to see like, damn, we made it all the way to the Super Bowl. It's incredible.
I agree. Like I thought it was like a crowning moment of because I mean obviously you and I are almost in the same age group or we're close, but
Yeah.
um when I was in high school and when like Dre and Snoop were coming out, I mean, it was looked at as being so bad because it was so like gangster rap and like
Yeah.
it was like spreading this South Central culture to, white America. And it's like people didn't know how to, and and now it's like Super Bowl. It's like it's a sign of age, but it's also a sign of like evolution, I think. Like
Yeah,
I think it's progress, which is awesome.
absolutely. Yeah, like that would have never ever happened. Like, even like 10 years ago, that would have probably never happened. So yeah, to see how far, hip hop as a whole has come, and especially with Dre and Snoop and like some of like the people that are so instrumental in moving things along, it's just great to see that moment for them.
So one of the things that I think is really cool that I didn't realize until I met you was, South Dakota, some people watching this probably have no idea where South Dakota even is. But that's where I grew up. South Dakota is where I grew up. You grew up there too, right? You're from
Well,
South Dakota, or where did you grow up?
I grew up from the age of like 1 till like 13, I grew up in Boston. And then I
Oh,
moved to the Rosebud Reservation when I was in middle school. Um, I was born in the Rosebud Reservation, Valentine, Nebraska, which isn't necessarily the reservation, but like, you know, might
pretty
as well
close.
have. But yeah, I was born out here and then moved back. My mom is from Boston, so we moved back there, and then we came back when I was in middle school.
One of the things that I learned from you was, within the Native American culture, like hip hop is huge within the from what I've learned from you or from what I can tell, with the reservations and just the Native American culture. Would you agree that hip hop has become an art form that kind of resonates within the Native American crowd, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's like a lot of like the same, what they're talking about on in hip hop with like the poverty and the violence and you know, um, just coming up hard was a lot of the stuff that we were feeling on the reservation. So we can relate to it, um, a lot better than maybe like some, people that didn't grow up like that or just don't see it or whatever. It made sense to us at an early age. Um, and so it's funny because like whenever I was growing up, we didn't have like cable. I remember when cable first became a thing on the reservation. I was like, damn, you can get like MTV now, and that fucking changed everything. It was like kids that were like cowboys, like, you know, 2 months ago. Once MTV came on and you could see Dr. Dre and everything, and Boys in the Hood and all that stuff was happening. All of a sudden, everybody was gangsters, and it was almost comical to like see how hard that switch went for some people. But yeah, it was like a whole new world for everybody out there.
But you've actually won some Native American Music Awards, correct?
Yeah, yeah, I've won three different ones. I've won Album of the Year twice, and or best hip hop album, I should say, and Single of the Year, which wasn't just confined to hip hop. It was actually the first hip hop song that ever got nominated, and we actually won. So that was pretty cool.
Awesome. And what I think is really cool about what you're doing is you are sharing sort of that struggle of the reservation through your art with people that may not be exposed to it, right? And I think that's what like Snoop and Dre did within their well, actually, that's what every artist does, right? If they're writing
Yeah,
from a real place, they're sharing where they come from. And like me personally growing up in South Dakota, I there's things that I don't even know about the reservations or, the cultures because obviously as we're learning through today's world, history gets whitewashed and it's unfortunate.
yeah, yeah. No, it's just a thing. Like with my music, I just write about my life, and so like I always say like every day is a new song or something like that. But just because it's like this is like everything on my album, you could point to a lyric and be like, well, that's happened because of this or whatever, and that song is about this experience that I had. And it's just all about like my life. So I have to just write from my perspective, and obviously my perspective is, a lot of the reservation and native culture. And I've lived in Sioux Falls now for like 20 years, so I'm not on the reservation as much as I, used to be, but the native culture is still here in Sioux Falls, and it's got a big native community and things. So
Awesome.
just the native perspective on life, basically.
And your latest album actually uses some of the native language, correct? With even the title.
Yeah. The latest album is called Wias and Mazaska, which in Lakota, Wias means women, Mazaska is money. So it was just like we were just joking around one day, and I can't remember how I came up with that. We were just like, or what are you here for? And we were like, I'm here for the Wias and Mazaska. And I was like, that's my next album title right there. Yeah. So yeah, and in the course of the album too, I do rap like a lot of like Lakota words too, which I don't think I've really done really at all. I don't think I can't really remember anything on my previous albums where I like, but I mean, it's not like there's like a ton, but there's like probably 4 or 5 times in the album where I, throw Lakota words out there. And I was
Is
listening to the album for a while back, and I was like, oh, all right, well, that's cool. It's a level up, I suppose.
is Lakota a language that you speak or that you understand, or what's your level of that?
Very minor. Like I
Okay.
can understand some of it. I can speak even less, but like I'm just around it enough to where like if people are having a conversation, I can sort of get the gist of what they're talking about. I would never be able to say something back to them. I mean, I've taken like Lakota language classes and things like that, but I wouldn't go anywhere near saying that I'm fluent in it or even proficient. I can understand it a little bit. But
Is that a language that's still spoken in on the reservations?
by a lot of the elders, like
Okay.
it's a slow dying language, I think. But there's certain people that are out there trying to keep it going, which is you definitely need that around. But yeah, it's not as widely used, I would think, that as it should be.
So in some of your albums, I know that you not only have invited other hip hop artists, but you've also had other Native American artists on your some of your songs as well, correct?
Yeah. I mean, the most of the people that I hang out with are primarily native, so it's just like um, like Maniac is a good friend of mine. Maniac the Supernatural. He's from Eagle Butte. He's like one of the most talented dudes that I've ever met. And yeah, I mean, he's my number one guy or go to. Or Crime Spree Nate Foot is another guy that I work with a lot, and those are the guy my go tos as far as like I'll bounce things off them or whatever. Like, check this out. What do you think of this or whatever? And they'll tell me like they'll be like, that shit's whack or whatever, or I trust them to give me honest answers on things.
So I thought I saw you post earlier that your new album got a ton of streams already. What are you up to
Yeah.
on streams?
The last time I looked, like on Spotify, it was like over 50,000 streams, which was like, I was
Wow.
like, whoa, where did this come from? Like, I don't, like my other albums, they do well, but they weren't like, it wasn't like right out the gate where it was just like, a ton of streams right away. So I'm not sure. I released like a couple of singles and things before it came out. And I think I have a song called How We Livin', which has been a fairly successful song, I think. And I think that's really what like pushed it. And just, just going hard on people like that first day, like it's out, go get it. I don't know. I
Yeah.
have really no answer for it really.
That's awesome. And How We Live in that has a video that's out now as well, right?
Yep. I think that video is really what like pushed it out there, because the video is it's super fun, and I think it's my best video so far.
So far.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like that video. So
So what's next for you from a music perspective? Obviously the album just dropped. I got it. I got the shirt. I got all of the other I got the Night Shield baseball card, which I almost missed it. Like, but my partner found it in the envelope and he's like, this was in there. You didn't get this. I was like, oh, okay.
yeah, it's awesome. Um, I don't know. I think well, we got 2 new music videos that we shot recently that are going to come out probably in the next month or 2 here. And then I'm doing my West River record release party April 9th in Rapid City. I'm doing well, I'll be up there both nights, the 9th and the 10th at the 445 Lounge or whatever. So that'll be fun. And then I don't really know. I think I have like a goal. I always write stuff down. Like I have a journal. At the beginning of each year, I write down, this is the 25 things I want to accomplish this year. And then I slowly like start to check them off or whatever, or hopefully check them off. And I did have a goal where I want to release at least one brand new single by the end of the year. So I
Cool.
don't know, start writing hopefully again here pretty soon and see where that takes us.
So before we wrap up here, do you have any advice for new rappers or new hip hop artists on something they shouldn't do when they're getting started?
My my biggest advice, I would say, came from a guy named Cool Nuts, which I don't know if it's kind of a silly name, but he's like a legit like veteran of the Northwest music scene, well respected. When for him to talk to me when I was first starting out was like a big deal. I was like, wow, Cool Nuts is talking to me or whatever. But he always told me, um, stay humble off the mic and talk shit on the mic. So that was the advice that he gave me, and I sort of always tried to live like that. Position myself through that.
Absolutely. And speaking of being on the mic and performing, you've opened for some pretty big names, right? Like Bone Thugs and Harmony. Who are some of the other people that you've opened for?
Yeah, I mean, we've done Bone Thugs, we've done Twista, we've done Tech Nine a few times, E40. I mean, you name them. If they've come through the Midwest, we've probably opened for them.
Awesome.
Who else? Like Paul Wall, Millionaire. Yeah. I mean, all those like you know mid to late '90s and early 2000 hip hop artists. If they've been through here, we've probably opened for them.
Awesome. Well, Nightshield, it's been great having you on At Home Songwriting. Thanks for sharing info about what you've been doing. I think it's inspiration to see that, you've had so many downloads of your new album. And like we talked about at the beginning, 24 albums released on your label, 8 solo albums, like all pretty much. I know you said there's a team, but it's all independent. It all starts with, kind of your vision as well. So I just think it's great. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure, and yeah, I appreciate it. Go check out Wias and Mazaska on Spotify and Apple Music and wherever you can find music.
Yeah, so search for Night Shields on the streaming sites, also YouTube. Check out the video of how we live in, and we'll catch you next video.